Today I want to talk about why your defense sucks in Dynasty CFB26. If y'all enjoy this content, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate y'all boys for watching all of that good stuff, man. So in this video, I kind of just want to talk about defense, go over the depth chart, go over a few different things, even some tips and tricks of how to play better defense in primarily Dynasty. Online, I'm going to be no help, be honest. Online, I'm no help, man. I don't play much online, but if you're an offline Dynasty guy, this is a video for you, man. So, in my opinion, one of the most important things for defense is going to be your playbook, man. For everything in this game is just going to be playbook. So, this is our Purdue series right here. We are balling. Check out the Purdue series, having a blast with that one. But for this, we're running a super simple 4-3 defense. Personally, traditionally, that's my favorite defense to run just because I just know it the best. I know how to run it the best. Now, you might be a 3-4 type guy. Whatever you choose, that's going to be super important. When it comes to simulation, you have to, one, choose a good defensive playbook. Two, also have players that could play within that defense. If you run in a 4-3 and you have a bunch of pass rushing linebackers that cannot cover, that might not work, or if you do have that type of defense when you're calling plays, you might want to call more nickel and dime package to get more, secondary players, D-backs on the field, however you want to do it. Or if you have a really good linebacker core that is great at coverage, you might not want to run a 3-4 type defense. During the offseason, you could change all of these guys around. Unfortunately, in season, you can't make any position changes anymore. So in this video, when I'm going over my defense and kind of talking through why I have certain guys starting at that position, it's all with a 4-3 type defense in mind. Now, if you're a sim guy looking for the best sim defense, in my opinion, 3-3-5 tight is one of the best sim defenses from last year, also coming over to this year. It puts up, in my opinion, the best sack numbers, and then also sacks usually result in wins in this game, man. Like, sacks is just a more important stat in sim than anything else, in my opinion, and that results into more wins. So that's the best defensive playbook, in my opinion, for simulating. But you also have to have players to go with that defense. If you don't have any good speed rushers, edge rushers, a good D tackle that gets to the passer, that defense might not work in, your simulation, your dynasty. So let's look here at my roster, man. So we're going to look just first at the defense at edge rusher. You could put a linebacker in this spot if you wanted to, but we don't have any good pass rushing linebackers. We're a traditional 4-3 defense, so we just don't have good pass rushing linebackers. We don't really have good linebackers at all, being completely honest with y'all. But we got blessed with signing a guy, TJ Bush Jr. He has abilities, good abilities. But for this Purdue series, we play every second of every game, so having good abilities actually matters. If we was doing a sim dynasty or a dynasty where we're even playing the moments, I will argue abilities mean nothing in simulation. From my testing, especially when you just sim a week, you're at week 5 and you sim to week 7 and you sim through 2 games, those abilities mean nothing in my opinion. You're better off with a higher overall rating than ability. So when you're deciding who you're starting, keep that in mind also. Now, when it comes to an edge rusher, I really want to look at attributes. I want to look at speed, strength, also the pass rush ability. I also recently did a test how to get sacks, in Dynasty, and we discovered some things with that. So I'm making this video with all of that information in mind, if that makes sense. So he has 82 speed, 87 acceleration. Acceleration really matters for an edge rusher, especially if he's a speed rushing archetype. Unfortunately, he's a pure power archetype, which is honestly not one of my favorite in Dynasty. It's just not. Just because he could only be good at one thing, or I should say one thing in a pass rush game. He could never be a good finesse rusher, even if he was super fast. So he currently has 7 sacks, 7 games in a year. That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal stat lines. Agility matters less change the direction matters less. Strength is important for an edge rusher. He has 85 strength. He's strong enough to go play D tackle. Just being completely honest with y'all, 85 strength is phenomenal for an edge rusher. He could also be, a 3-4 type, defensive end also with that high strength. Awareness matters a lot. 88 awareness. The way I think awareness impacts the game is just allows your player to play good more consistently. So it also, if you have high awareness like this, it'll even allow him to play above his attributes, but if you have a guy with great attributes but low awareness, he just don't know how to use his attributes. That's how I like to look at awareness. Play recognition, also a good thing to have. I'm not going to say it's the say all be all, but a good thing to have. I would prefer on the linebacker or a secondary guy, but on the edge rusher, just a good thing to have. Power moves 88, that's pretty good. Then the finesse moves 72, that's the one I said can never improve as he's a pure power. But then you get the high block shedding. 87 block shedding is elite for a edge rusher. Elite. You see our backer right here only has 55, but he's a speed rusher, even though he's slower and, all that stuff. But he do have some pretty good finesse moves. Now, when you're deciding who you should start, 4-3, 3-4 defense, you got the tackling, hit power. I don't really put all that much value into hit power for a defensive lineman, also tackling. I just don't put that much value into it. Pursuit is, solid thing to have. And then some of this other stuff don't really matter for an edge rusher. But when you're deciding who to start, here's the super obvious decision. TJ Bush is one of the best players on the whole entire roster, so it's obvious. But what if it's less obvious? Who do you start? I like to look at, block shedding, finesse moves, power moves, strength, speed, acceleration also. Those are some of the things that I look at the most, and then also throw awareness in there. And it all depends what type of defense I'm playing. If I'm playing the 4-3, I want a guy that could rush the passer coming off the edge. I'm never starting the edge setter, just never. I'm never starting the edge setter. Edge setter could be great at D tackle in a 4-3 type defense, but in this defense, never. Not even in question. He wouldn't even be an edge rusher. I just move him straight to D tackle in the off season. So I'm keeping that in mind. Easy decision here at left end. Right end, a little bit more of a tougher decision, but we have Jalen Thompson, who is also more of a power rusher. In my opinion, I would like to have at least one speed rusher and the other archetype. I'll have two speed rushers, but I don't love to have two power rushers, and that's kind of what I have right here, just because sometimes your edge rushers will flip, and then one tackle might be a better power rusher stopper or a better speed rusher stopper. But if he's just or both of them good at power rushing, then you're kind of out of luck for that game. So I would love to have at least one speed rusher here at edge rusher, but it just didn't work out in the cards this season. And we're, only a year or two with this program. So the roster is not 100%, my roster, if that makes sense. We got to, just get it how we live. So we got two power rushers, and they're both having pretty good seasons. Jalen Thompson also have 7 sacks in 7 games. That is very good, very good for both our edge rushers to be doing that. But another obvious situation where we going to start Jalen Thompson because he's the highest rated guy here. But I honestly would prefer to have one speed rusher, like I mentioned, coming off the edge. Attributes across the board, pretty solid. Solid strength. The block shedding 82 is pretty good for an edge rusher. Good power moves, and then the finesse moves, not bad. He's a little bit more versatile, so I do enjoy that about, Jalen Thompson, no diddy. Now, moving over to D tackle, and this where it gets a little bit interesting. So we have Trey here, our star D tackle, best D tackle in the room. Clear as day, he's the best D tackle, 85 overall. He's a pure power archetype, which is okay for D tackle as long as he has some block shedding, and he do because he's a real life guy. When you go to the auto-generated recruits, you'll see some of these pure power guys just don't have enough block shedding, and that, in my opinion, super important for a D tackle. Even though in the latest test I did, when we just simmed and we did 10 simulations, block shedding didn't result in, more tackle losses. It didn't. It did not. So that's interesting. But increasing the power moves and finesse moves did increase the tackle for losses. That's just a test I did. Maybe it's a small sample size, but it was surprising to see that at least in simulation. Now, when it comes to playing the games, you need block shedding. You need block shedding, man. You need block shedding. Also, height, weight, at least weight, that matters a little bit here for the D-line. You want to have bigger guys at D-tackle. Speed, not that important in my opinion. I would much rather have strength, but speed, acceleration, agility, change direction, all that stuff really not as big of a deal at D-tackle. But strength, important. Need that. That's going to, result into that D-tackle either getting pushed out the way or holding his ground, and then also him shedding blocks, helping with him shed blocks. Awareness also very important. Play recognition, the pass rush ability, all that stuff also important. Now, Trey here, also a very good player for us. I see the stats. He's putting up 6 sacks and 14 tackles for loss. He's also balling so far in 7 games in the season. Now, when we look at the backup D tackle, who do you decide to start at backup D tackle? We have another per power here, but he is the next best block shedder, and that's what I need at D tackle. So that's why, in my opinion, he's the clear starter, because he has high block shedding and he has pretty solid power moves to go along with good speed. 72 speed is pretty solid, and then 85 strength is good enough. He's only a 77 overall, but in my opinion, his attributes look pretty solid for 77. He looks pretty solid. Now, compared to this guy who's also a pure power, no block shedding, lower strength or lower speed, the strength is still around the same spot, but you do get a little bit more pass rush ability. I'm not that worried about the pass rush at D tackle. I would much rather have a guy that could stop the run at D tackle, and we could then bring in the pass rushers on third down. That's kind of my logic. Now here, unfortunately, our top 4 D tackles all pure power. Like I mentioned, this roster is not 100% me yet. We're getting there, but the roster right now is not 100% there. Also to mention, our second string D tackle, 81 overall, he's also injured. So he technically would be my number 2 starter. Guess what? Also a pure power archetype, but block shedding 90, power moves also 84. Like, he's a good player, low strength, but not low strength, low speed. He has high strength, 93 strength. He might be the strongest player on the whole entire defense, but 6'3", 343 pounds. He's a big body. You're not going to be able to move that guy. And that's better to have rather than, TJ Bush at D tackle. Even though he has 85 strength, that weight matters a little bit. It matters a little bit, man. It's not the end of the world. You still can have smaller guys play in the trenches, but you are better off having big guys in the trenches, as it just makes sense. Now, when it comes to linebacker, who should you start? So at Mike, we'll start at the Mike linebacker, and then we'll go out to the outside linebackers. I believe you should start whoever your best user will be. So you want to start someone with speed and okay tackling. That's usually what you want to do. Now, our situation is a little bit weird, and you say, oh, you should start this guy. He got 87 speed. He has even higher tackling than, the starter. The reason I'm starting David right here is because he's a true freshman and he has more potential going forward. Even though he has normal development, he has more potential going forward rather than the 69 overall redshirt junior. Even though his attributes look better, higher speed, some of that stuff that matter for your user, I'm going with the freshman David just because he has more potential going forward and he's from Baton Rouge. Why not? So that's my thought process. I'm also, a factor in potential, stuff. All our linebackers are young. You'll see here, all of our linebackers are freshmen. We have 1 redshirt freshman, then we have 2 true freshmen starting at linebacker. Once again, this is a team I am rebuilding. This team is not ready yet. Now, our guy does have amazing block shedding for a true freshman. 84 on the block shedding, 79 on the hit power, nothing crazy there, but pretty darn good with that block shedding. He's a thumping archetype, and he also could rush the passer. He got solid power moves and finesse moves. That's what you're getting with these thumping linebackers. Now, the zone cover is also in a pretty solid spot at 78. Like, he actually is a pretty solid player across the board, and he's a solid user. Even though he has the low speed, But the acceleration, 88, that's pretty good. You wish to change the direction, maybe a little bit higher, even agility, maybe a little bit higher, but it's fine. We'll live with that. So middle linebacker, just want a guy that can fly around and tackle, especially for my user. We don't have a perfect guy in this dynasty, but it is what it is. Now, for my outside linebacker in this 4-3 defense, I want guys that could cover and tackle, and also that has speed. And that's kind of what we got with Coco. He also has star development. You could argue, oh, he should be your starting middle linebacker. He's my sub linebacker, but we'll get into that a little bit later, all the sub linebacker stuff. Only 80 tackling, but I say only. That's one of the highest tackling out of all our linebackers. Just being honest with y'all, we don't have a great linebacker core. But 84 speed, acceleration is solid, awareness is low, hit power, fine. The block shedding, that's going to help with him getting off the blocks and making some of these tackles in the backfield at the line of scrimmage, getting all these blocks from these big boys trying to get their hands on them. Now, he also has okay man and zone coverage, press coverage, dirt. This is a good linebacker. Weight, low. 208 pounds. He's a small guy. He is a small guy right now, but he will continue to grow in weight. His strength is at a 76. It could be worse. Maybe wish it was a little bit better, but he is a smaller linebacker. Not my preference, but we got to roll with the punches here with this Purdue dynasty. Now, other lurking linebacker, and this is another concept. He's not the best linebacker we have. He's not. But he's a young guy, and I'm trying to develop some linebackers of the future. I am. He's a redshirt freshman. We probably should be starting, Davis here, who, I think is a little bit better. Some of these other linebackers, I think just looking at their attributes combined, I think they're a little bit better. But we're going with the young guy to try to develop him. He also has, 90 acceleration, 82 speed. Look at that acceleration. 71 tackling for a linebacker is horrible. That is just horrible, but he's a lurking archetype, so he's more so going to be better in the passing game. The finesse moves, power moves, the block shedding, 58, terrible. He terrible. But we got to roll with the punches, man. We don't have a good linebacker core, so it is what it is. That's not the best example of, deciding who to start, because a lot of that is just starting the young guy for that linebacker room. Now, corners, you kind of have to make a decision. What do you want to run? And that's very big, like as far as zone or man. And when you decide that, you also got to prioritize them in recruiting, because you can't bring in the best of both worlds. Unless you manual progression, you could do whatever you want because it's so good. But if you're, auto progression like I'm doing in this dynasty, we got to go get corners that's going to play our type defense. Now, once again, this is not a team that's, all the way there, because I will have more zone and field corners on this roster, but we do have Jalen Todd, who is our top zone corner. Nobody's fast in this room, 89 to 90 speed, acceleration, nothing crazy, agility, change of direction, all that stuff, nothing crazy. Awareness matters, strength, I could care less for a corner. Also play recognition, that's where this ability really starts to shine, having this play recognition on the corner. They run a comeback route, you got high play recognition, high man coverage. You in man coverage, that guy might be all over it, he might even pick it. Now, man coverage, zone coverage, also super important for a corner. Obvious stuff right here. But if you're going to run zone coverage and man coverage, don't go after a zone or bump and run corner. Go after field. Unless you're manual progression. You manual progression, you could turn the man corner into a great zone corner. But if you're not doing that like I am, you got to go after the field corner, because they'll actually develop both over time. They will be a little bit slower, but they will develop both. Now, press coverage. If you're pressing, shout out to you. But I'm not doing that in my dynasty because I don't have corners that's fast enough to press, in my opinion. So I'm not pressing I'm not pressing if I don't have hub over the top. Catching, less important, okay stat. Tackling, if you have a corner with high tackling, that might be your guy to play in the slot. You'll see, I'll show the stats here for my Purdue team, but our slot corner plays a lot. He just plays closer to the line of scrimmage, so he's going to be in better positions to make tackles. Also, in zone coverage, he's going to be in better position, to play zone across the middle of the field, and that's also going to lead to more tackles. So having this boundary archetype playing in your slot is honestly a pretty good decision, because they usually come in with a little bit more tackling, freshman boundary corner right here. He has 67 tackling, which sounds bad, but for a corner, that's serviceable. We have a starting linebacker with 71 tackling, so keep that in mind. Block shedding also start a little bit better for them boundary corners, so I like to play them in the slot. But outside that, I'm not gonna play them guys too much on my field personally. I don't think they're the best archetype. Now, other than that, like I said, you got to decide what you want to do with your team, man. Are you a man team? Are you a zone team? Are you a little bit of both? Then that's got to determine what type guys you're starting and what type guys, you're recruiting. Unless you're, like me, where we don't have a choice, But when our best coverage corners here, when it comes to, okay, he has solid man, solid zone. He's only a 70 overall. You look at his press, trash. The worst press corner on the team. But like attributes wise, he's better than this guy right here. But he's missing out on the press coverage, So if you don't run press, oh yeah, you could go ahead and move him up on the depth chart, So consider everything for these dynasties. Now let's move over here to the safety position, and right here we have 2 star safeties at our free and strong safety position. So it's not going to be much of a decision to be made of who to start. Now for me, I wouldn't recommend going with 2 box corners. Or 2 box safeties. That's what we have here. Was able to bring in 2 phenomenal safeties, and they're 2 just box safeties that don't play great man or zone coverage, but they can hit people, and it is fun. But strong safety Isaac, you see the zone, see the man, not great. And then also our other guy, he actually could play corner. He's our best coverage guy on the whole roster. He could go play corner better than our corners with that 91 speed, 94 acceleration. He's the best player on the team for a reason. Now, personally, you want to pit, in my opinion, if you do have a box specialist safety, you want to put him in at the sub-linebacker, especially in a situation like our team where we don't have good linebackers. We have true freshmen starting at linebacker. So you come over here, we're going to look at the sub-linebacker position real quickly. And you see I have Isaac Smith as our sub-linebacker. And I understand that now my backup linebacker is going to be starting at strong safety. My backup safety is going to be starting at strong safety when Isaac Smith is in at sub-linebacker. So when I'm going through my team, I'm recruiting, I'm scouting, I know I need at least 2 good safeties, or at least 3 really good safeties on my team. 1 to start at free safety and 2 for strong safety, because my backup will be playing a lot. He's not very good, overall wise, but he gets the job done also as a box coverage safety. So I just feel solid running with Buddy at safety. He still get hit, tackle, the zone coverage is okay, but I feel like he plays above his attributes personally. But you'll see he has pretty much the same tackles as our starting safety. And that's because he plays just as much. We run a lot of nickel for our defense, so he's constantly being used on the field. So just know how to use your players on your defense. Now, looking at the edge rushers, or really the rush edge, that's going to be on your pass rush downs, but also when you call the pass rush defense. So if you go nickel, dime, quarters, whatever, all of that stuff, you're going to bring in your rush edge rushers. If you want to just go base 4-3 defense, it's just going to be your regular 4-3 guys, and that's going to be more so to stop the run. Now, for me, because we only have, all our good players are the same good players that's good at stopping the run and also stopping the pass. So in my situation, I don't really have any rush edge or D tackles. It's the same guys. So TJ Bush is here, and then the other guy is going to be Jalen Thompson, and it's not much competition because we only have 2 good edge rushers on the whole entire roster. So that's unfortunate for, I guess, this video. Now, when it comes to right or on D tackle, rush D tackle, it say Trey is only a 71 overall. I had to manually put him in the starting D tackle spot because they only view him as a 71 overall D tackle, and that's because he's a pure power archetype. So they wanted to start him, or they wanted him to be on the bench, honestly. But no, he's our best pass rusher. He is, even though he don't have the finesse moves, and for some reason they value finesse moves more when it comes to pass rush, and that's not always the case. especially when block shedding also plays an impact in rushing the passer. But I digress. Now, so I manually put him in the starting spot. Our other D tackle is hurt, so TJ Lindsey is next on that list, and he's also got 3 sacks on the season. He's doing his thing as a backup D tackle. But sometimes they'll want to do some crazy stuff like Brooks right here. They may put him in the starting spot if you just auto set your depth chart, and in my opinion, that would be a bad decision. 72 strength, you don't want that at D tackle. 55 block shedding. You don't want that at D tackle, but sometimes they will pit a guy like this as your starting rush D tackle, and you run it wondering why your team is absolutely fooled when you call a nickel package or whatever. That's why you get killed up the middle, because you have somebody that has no business playing D tackle on any team starting at D tackle for your rush defense. Now, when it comes to him rushing the passer, he would be pretty good at D tackle. He'll be solid. But he'll be an absolute liability in the running game. So I would advise against something like this. Now, I do love a speed rushing D tackle if you're going to use them right. If you're going to use them right, man. I do love that archetype if you're going to use them right. They could produce a lot of sacks. So I would say invest in one on your roster at all times. And just have him as the rush D tackle, maybe the second string rush D tackle, and he'll actually produce. Now, in the sub-linebacker, where I got into all that, your slot corner, I wouldn't suggest putting your best corner at slot. The CPU will manually do that. Just put your best corner at slot. You could if you want to, but here I went with Hines, as he's not great coverage-wise, but he is pretty solid with the tackling. He do have some press coverage, maybe even a little bit hit power. We just don't have great, players on this roster right now, so it could be a toss-up, for who starts. It could be a toss-up. If I'm feeling different one day, I'll change it, because none of these guys are set in stone, or a lot of these guys not set in stone at corner, linebacker, safety and D-line is set in stone, but those other positions, not. And then your nose tackle, depending what defense, what formation you're in, this could matter tremendously, man. Having the right guy at nose tackle. What the nose tackle is, that's supposed to be your big, strong D tackle that's able to stop the run. So keep that in mind. Your big, strong D tackle that's able to stop the run. So you want to pit your best guy at doing that over there. Now, unfortunately, our best guy at doing that is actually hurt. So it's Trey here. And he's not a slouch at all. He's not slouchy whatsoever. So he's our starting nose tackle. And then also Gadget is going to be for your offensive side of the ball. So just a quick, video explaining the defense, maybe why your defense sucks. I hope this video was useful, let you know kind of my mindset running a 4-3 defense. Also, my guy Mills has some pretty good videos on specific defenses. So I think he has one like a 3-3-5, he might even have one 3-4, whatever. And he'll talk about what plays to run, also what guys to recruit, all of that stuff. So go check out Mills' channel if you would like stuff like that. If you enjoyed this content, man, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate y'all boys. And we'll on to the next one, y'all.